Good evening. Today is June 30th. It's about 7:36 p.m. and this is a meeting of the Streets and Sidewalks Committee. To my right is Councilwoman Susan Westfall, and to my left is Councilman Jeffrey Schilling, and I'm Bob Phillips, the chair. We're here this evening to discuss and hear a staff report with an authorizing amendment to professional services with LJB Inc. for detailed construction design and documents for Prouty Plaza as a part of the Downtown Safety and Streetscape Renovation Project. And Mr. Titterington, you're going to lead that discussion.
Sure. I will attempt to be brief. Back in October, Council authorized the detailed design professional services agreement with LJB to continue that project based on input and a work session that was held prior to that. At that time, Council authorized not to exceed $617,370 with the knowledge that Prouty Plaza was going to continue to be looked at. Subsequently, we had a work session where Council provided input and verbal direction on what you'd like to see out on Prouty Plaza. That was a separate work session. And Pod Designs did that for us. Now we are to the point where LJB and Pod, working with LJB, will incorporate the detailed design on Prouty Plaza into the overall bid specs that the council can then review and authorize bidding for that project. The additional cost needs to be added to the LJB contract to increase that authorization to $782,863 or an additional $165,493. We are not asking for emergency legislation.
And this is a complete scope in infrastructure, everything.
Yes, correct.
And we are looking at electrical, water, stormwater, and sewer.
Uplighting, landscaping, yes. Hardscapes, the archway that we talked about, yes, as well as the columns on the other, in the other alley or behind the other alley.
A question maybe for Mrs. Butera. Because of the Main Street project and all of the things that we did not know were underground, bridges and other things, do we have any inkling that we're going to find such things in this excavation?
As she makes her way forward,
yeah.
What you're referring to with West Main Street was primarily parts of the old canal.
Yes.
Which did not run through.
No, it didn't run through downtown
area. So we're reasonably hopeful that we won't find anything like that.
Well, our as-built plans, are they pretty up to date? I mean, as far as 50 years ago or so. I mean, with things that you've looked at in the past.
Like Mr. Titterington said, we wouldn't expect to find anything that substantial. Likely in a downtown, what we may come across are whether it's underground, center point lines that we aren't aware of that are live, or utilities that aren't shown on our driveway drawings. So while I don't anticipate that, I wouldn't be shocked for us to come across things like that in a downtown as
Gotcha.
the age of ours.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Thank you. Mrs. Westfall.
No. So we will get to see Prouty Plaza once they figure out a design. As far as, are we still getting input for that, or?
No, you've provided the input. We're at the point where we're doing the detailed design.
I disagree with that.
Yeah.
Well, I know you do, but that's not what we did.
No, that's exactly what we did.
In
February, we said we would move forward with the idea that we would have the ability to come back and say, we want this feature, but not this one. And we sort of like a list, a checklist that we could vote on. That we could,
I don't think the council did that.
That we could vote on and say, yes, we want this, and no, we don't want that. And now we're coming up with a plan that we have no idea what's in it. We don't know what you're gonna tell the consultants, or what they're gonna we have no idea what they're gonna come up with. We're gonna have, is the Dunaway Committee gonna decide that we want a water feature, a splash pad? Are we going to take into consideration that there's some concern about the brickscape being handicap friendly? There's a whole bunch of list things that we talked about that we have never said, yeah, this is what we want, or this is what we don't want. I think we're a little putting the horse before the cart here, or the cart before the horse, because we haven't really said. In February we said let's move forward, but we want to have this. We want to have the ability to say, we want to have some final
Mr.
input.
Schilling, we will gladly provide you with a link to the video. I know that you said that. We got direction that we will have, that we will include a water feature. It will not be a splash pad. There was the direction that we were given.
Your doctor, you're dolling things up on this
one. Can I finish, please? So there was some discussion about the number of jets, that maybe we should reduce the number of jets. We talked about the trees and the hardscape. You gave us clear direction on the archway and the columns that were going in.
We did do that.
Well, you can't have it both ways, sir.
I didn't agree with it either.
You mentioned that you wanted to see that. You mentioned that you wanted to see something like that. The consensus of the group was to give us enough direction, and we were pretty clear that for us to keep proceeding forward, we needed that direction. That's why we spent an hour, 2 hours going through this. This was not we just kind of want to get your ideas, and then we're going to go through the same process again. That
there was still
never
controversy.
The intention, and it was
there was
never
still
discussed
controversy,
that way.
though. We didn't all agree that it was all awesome.
And we had a consensus, and we have a consensus unless a majority has changed their mind.
No, I don't think we ever said that. I think we agreed to move forward with the idea that we would have the ability to, as I say, to select certain features at some point down in the future. And I think we're at that point
If I
now.
recall correctly, Mr. Schilling, you actually asked, can we vote on each one of these individually?
I did ask that.
There was no consensus to do that. None at all. Yeah.
Do you have any other questions?
No, I think I pretty well covered it.
Do you have any more questions?
I agree with him. I feel like there was a lot of things that weren't settled and that we didn't all agree on, but...
There was disagreement, I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
But there was a consensus on the positive side to proceed.
But what are the sidewalks going to look like? I don't remember picking that.
I can't remember that exact item.
Because
so
we brought up concerns about handicap people, and we didn't want it to be all brick because it was hard to walk on, and walkers are hard. And they said that's a great idea. We got to figure this out. Well, what became of that?
If I remember,
what
Patrick, at that meeting.
Hang on, please.
No.
Chairman here.
Mr. Chairman.
Name and et cetera.
William Roselle, 637 Clarendon. At that meeting, they were specifically asked, because of the concern of a few citizens with their walkers and wheelchairs about the bricks, if they could have stained concrete instead. They were to get back with us on that. Have they done that?
I don't think we were, well, yes, I guess we did. It was actually an employee and her daughter, so there's been discussions with that. We did clarify, and we did, and actually Kevin from MKSK that evening, who was the landscape architect with these ideas, was here, and he did explain. It may look like that's slippery, but it's not, because of the way the concrete brick is. And in fact, when we've talked about materials, he's reiterated and shown us what they're planning on doing. The stamped concrete Yeah, so there were two issues there. Just,
Stained, not stamped.
Stained concrete. Is that there's the slickness as well as bumpiness, I guess.
It's hard to get a wheelchair.
And, yeah,
Right.
and
Stamped
we've
brick.
confirmed that neither one of those is an issue, that the materials that would be used are going to address those issues. The idea of using stained concrete throughout the entire, without any kind of landscape brick, would completely change the streetscape, not only that we have now, but that we want to have as a replacement. So, I mean, all of that was pretty much resolved that evening. Yeah, no, I agree. There was not 9-0 on every single item, but we got consensus enough that we knew and we know which direction that we're supposed to go. It would be unusual for the council and probably very onerous if we brought samples of different pavers and had everybody weigh in.
You do
We'd
that.
probably never
You
get
do that in the
Why
planning
not?
commission all the time.
Why not?
You bring in paint samples, and I know when
Those
Mr.
are-
Capper
that
ran
is-
the thing, he was commenting
Okay,
on one of
that
the
is the
constructions.
architectural review board part of the planning
No, that
commission.
was the
something
planning
different.
commission that did that.
That
because
is the
Capper was in charge of it.
architectural review part of the planning commission. That's a unique thing, and I imagine that they'll have to do that when it comes to the pavers here. It's a public meeting, and you certainly can provide input there, I suppose. We can follow up on that. But I do take issue that, we are farther along, and for us to stay on schedule, that's why we had not one, but two different work sessions. One, to get guidance on the Prouty Plaza, and then after that, discuss the entire streetscape plan so that we had the direction that we needed to keep proceeding forward. Since this is a multi-year project, and there's going to be very complicated, not only in design and bidding, but also in execution of the construction, so that we can minimize as much as possible the disruption to the downtown.
I completely get that, but, okay, so we're getting a water feature or we're not getting a water feature?
The
I
water
don't even know
feature is
that.
part of the
feature's
plan.
part of
The
Okay.
input
So how
that we
do
received.
so how do we get the water feature out of the plan?
That wasn't the consensus of
Uh,
committee
yeah,
at the time.
the consensus of the
I don't
committee
think
as a
that was
whole.
a consensus at the time, I'm sorry.
I didn't
Oh, it
want
was clear
but-
consensus. There were
okay.
two of you that didn't like it, but 7 of you that did like it.
Correct.
And there was some discussion about, do we want 9 jets or do we want
So what did
maybe
it?
6? So it's
So what's it
smaller.
look at? What's it look like? We have no idea
That's what
what
they're
it
gonna
looks
Yes,
like.
you do. You saw it in the renderings. We had renderings. We had drawings here that evening.
With the reduced jets, or what? how many
Yes, I
jets
believe
do
she
we
did.
have?
I can't think of the gentleman's name from Pod. He did provide one that had a reduced number of jets. Yes, it just went from 9 to 6. There it is.
Hang on.
You want to model it there,
When you're
Vanna?
ready.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Before I move, any other questions?
No, I'll reserve it right now.
Mr. Twist?
Yeah, I was just going to clarify, at that meeting, we did recommend where we wanted to go, or where the direction we wanted to go. It was agreed upon. The only thing I remember is what Mr. Roselle brought up, that the staff would work with the consultant along with the young lady that was here on the handicapped issue, and they were supposed to respond back to us with just, hey, it's okay, which I don't know
Did that happen?
if that happened. But that's the only thing I can remember from that meeting. We gave direction. We said this is what it's going to be. They were going to design that. The only outstanding issue, I think, was the discussion between 9 and 6 jets and like the bricks. The smoothness of the bricks was to be decided.
And there was an extensive conversation about the,
Back out and did that, so.
there was an extensive conversation about the substrate below the bricks and how that they were going to be very, very extensive in comparison to other installations that we've had here. that things were just going to be really
Yes,
solid.
but
and
they
locked in.
agreed, the consultant agreed
Right.
to sit with the staff and get some additional information to make sure the handicap issue was addressed. And that would be my only thing was, as long as that was addressed with the appropriate people,
It was.
then we did give the go-ahead.
Discussions were had specifically with the young lady that came and spoke
Yes.
at council.
He was gonna participate.
We reaffirmed that all of the brick choices essentially they presented, all of those do meet ADA guidelines.
Okay.
Now, in some cases, there's preference, right? Like when you think of if you're a bicyclist, whether you're biking over, right, a plain asphalt road, or maybe you're biking on concrete where it's got a rib, right? It feels different,
Sure.
but all of the brick and paver
Okay.
did meet ADA guidelines.
Okay,
Okay.
that was the only thing I remember from outstanding.
And I appreciate that was
Yeah.
done.
Any other council folks have any other questions? Anyone in the audience have any questions? Seeing none, what is your preference with this?
Well, we don't really have a choice, do we?
Yeah, we do.
I-
You have a vote, yes or no?
I think that in my case, the water feature especially is concerning to me. I took a ride up to Pickworth a couple weeks ago on a Sunday, and they have a water feature next to their new amphitheater. And it's not very big, but I classify it as a breezy day, not windy, but breezy, and there was water all over the place. And I look at the reason that people come to downtown Troy is because they like the atmosphere and they like the businesses that we have, and that's why we want them to come to Troy. Okay, we're not there to recreate, or we're not there to do other things, but we want them to be downtown and to visit our businesses and to enjoy the atmosphere that we have. And the idea that this water feature will be an economic benefit to the city or to the businesses, we don't have a study on that. We don't have an economic study on Prouty Plaza at all. It's always been, well, it's going to be an entertainment thing regardless, which I find, we do an economic study for virtually everything. And we don't have an economic study. We've never done an economic study on Prouty Plaza. What's the best thing to do down there? And for that reason alone, for the reason of that water feature thing, I'm going to say I don't think we should move forward with this until the council has the ability to decide that, and maybe some of the other features that are going to be added to this thing, whether the bricks or anything else. I think we need to look at each one of these things separately. And so at this point, I cannot recommend this thing going forward.
Gotcha. Is it Westmore?
Well, it sounds like we have already discussed it, and we got outvoted, so I guess we move forward.
Okay, it is a 2-to-1 decision to move forward as staff is recommending, and Mr. Schilling will have the minority report.
Right.
Are you going to issue one? You'll issue one to Mrs. Knight?
Will you write up the
I
minority
can,
report?
Or you?
Okay,
Okay.
and the time that you need it submitted is, Mrs. Knight? How long,
Thursday.
when do you need it?
Thursday morning, we'll
Thursday.
finalize all reports.
Gotcha. Okay,
Because of the holiday.
gotcha. Okay, moving along to the next item. Additional payment to ODOT for urban surfacing of State Route 41 from Experiment Farm Road to the Western Corp limit. Mr. Titterington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In May, you approved the final preliminary consent legislation for ODOT to do the portion of West Main Street resurfacing, again, between Experiment Farm Road all the way out to the Western Corporation limit. The partnership that we have with ODOT is a typical 80-20 split, 80% on their end, 20% on our end. It's important to note. They did bid that project. ODOT bid that one out themselves. The low bid exceeded the estimate by 7%, And so I believe they can accept it, but our projected cost, based on that bid, will be, the 20% additional will be $13,784.74. And so we need to provide the authorization from you to make that payment to ODOT. ODOT needs that because this project has been bid, and as is typical with ODOT, they do request that council consider this as emergency legislation. And I would say that even with the additional cost, the bids that came in, our portion is under what we budgeted.
It's under the
budget was.
$250,000
It is.
budgeted amount. The total was the $194,832 figure,
Sounds right.
okay, generally, plus or minus. I don't have any questions on this item, Mrs. Westfall?
No question.
Actually, no, it'll be the 194 plus the 13. But
I'm sorry?
it'll be 194 plus
Plus
the
the
13.
13, okay, gotcha. I'm sorry, any questions? Any council folks have any questions on this item? Anyone else in the audience have any questions on this item? Seeing none, how do you wish to proceed? Move forward.
Move forward.
All right, it's unanimous with the committee to move forward as staff is requesting, and we do not have an emergency.
With emergency.
It is emergency.
Oh,
Yes, with emergency, it's ODOT.
yes, with the.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
To make sure.
All right, any other items to come before the Streets and Sidewalks Committee?
No, sir.
We are adjourned. Thank you all for attending.